welcome to Conscious Conversations, Cecilia. I'm so excited to have you here today to talk about a topic that feels really timely for me, which is the misconception that alignment only exists when things feel easy, flowy, and effortless. I know you will have a lot to say on this topic.
Yes. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
having me.
I'm so excited to dive into this. For me personally, we've talked about this, but leaving my career to start this work felt so deeply aligned, and yet it was anything but easy and
Mhm.
flowy. And so I know this is something that a lot of people are navigating as more and more people leave corporate to go pursue, their purpose and passions. And so, I really want to take a look at what it means to be in alignment when life feels anything but smooth. And
Mm.
really, what is alignment beyond these like buzzwords of flow, ease, and effortless? Um, yeah. So
Amazing.
before we dive in, yeah. Yeah. And so before we dive in, I always like to start these conversations by sharing what I admire about my guest
Mm.
because I usually know them personally or just am getting to know them. So for you, Cecilia, what I love about you is how much your content just like slaps. Like it just
Ah.
always hits. Every time I see it, I'm like, yes. And everything you share lands as very like solid, embodied thought leadership, which we need and I love. And you're very kind and you're very sweet, but you also have this very like firm and decisive nature to you that I'm seeing, and you hold yourself with so much self-worth and value, and that very much comes through, and I'm that's what I see so far, so I'm excited to get to know you more.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for reflecting that back to me. We put a lot of, time and attention into cultivating things that we hope will be helpful for people. So when we see that reflected back, it's such a joy to see that it's landing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely landing. Okay,
Good.
so would love to start off with telling the people who are listening what it is that you do and a little bit about the journey to get here, because I know it's been far from easy for you.
Yes. Yeah, I think the most kind of obvious way to start is I had a heavy metal poisoning between 18 and 26. So
Mhm.
I was really really sick, very disconnected from my purpose, very disconnected from my life force, my energy, my passions, my interests. I was at a certain point I was barely able to read because heavy metals will really start deteriorating different brain regions and break that down. I was not really absorbing nutrients very well. Everything was kind of just not working very well. So I looked like I was anorexic. I could barely read. I was depressed. I was very anxious. I would have panic attacks. And in the beginning, just didn't really know what was going on. And then after about 4 years, we figured out that it was a heavy metal poisoning. And then started the journey of detoxing, which is not just, celery juices and saunas. So it's like a lot deeper than that because heavy metals can be reabsorbed in different organs in the body if you don't do it properly and actually do more damage than what they had done in the first place. So that started a process of about 2.5 years of like really intense detoxing. And then after that, starting to build up the body again because I had not really absorbed a lot of nutrients. I was like reacting to anything and everything. And then obviously building up the brain and the body again. So I came out on the other side of that feeling like I finally had regained my health at around 26 and realized that I'd never actually been an adult without being sick. And I wanted to be very intentional about what that looked like because I saw all of these people around me that lived life that I just did not want to live. And it wasn't that they seemed kind of happy, but I just knew I wouldn't be happy in that life. I've always been very creative and kind of knew I wanted to do something like that. And I felt like I had this like new ground zero where I was able to like just, okay, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to actually give myself the grace to be present in this process and to take some time figuring out what I want. And in that process, I stumbled upon neuroscience and got really deep into how our brain filters our reality, and realized that I had probably picked up on a lot of patterns that wasn't really conducive to the person that I wanted to become. Because even though I had never called myself sick, I realized that there were probably a lot of identities and different kind of patterns that I had integrated over such a long time. And I started to work with the subconscious mind that, is governing 95% of our reality. So we can have like a really amazing conscious goal of what we want to do. We can have a vision, we can have a dream, but then for some reason it just stays a dream. And then very often that is because we are not able to work through what's living even deeper in the subconscious and in the nervous system. So that work really started changing my life, and eventually also tapped me into more of the mystical, which is also a big part of my work now. So that was definitely the starting point. And I had an experience that I would call like, a spiritual awakening. It was like in a moment where I felt like I was sitting in meditation, and I had a moment where suddenly I felt like I was plugged into an electric socket. And it felt like I was experiencing more energy running through my body than I had my entire life, more love than I'd ever felt. And it came from within. So it was this very special feeling where I just remember feeling like, this is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. As if I like landed back into my destiny, into my purpose. And I came back and I just was like, what was that? This must be what people talk about when they're talking about coming to God. And
Wow.
it was, and I thought it was going to be a once in a lifetime experience because it was so profound. And then I just kept tapping back into the same place, meditation after meditation. And I came out on the other side. This was during a retreat, meditation retreat. And on the other side of that, and realized that this is not an exclusive that I have with love or the universe or God, whatever you want to call it. This is something that's available to all of us. And if this is the power that we have available to create, then we're boundless beyond what most people even realize. And I felt like I need to collect some tools to bring this to people. I don't even know what this is yet, but I really need to explore this because this feels really important. And that kind of started
Wow.
the journey into what I'm doing now.
Wow. And how long ago did you start doing what you're doing now?
This kind of like awakening experience was around 3 years ago. So I was very much in the like biohacking, nutrition, mindset, performance optimization, and even like self-help, for like more than 10 years before that. And then there was this moment of like, oh, there's more. And I knew that as a
Yeah.
kid. I was very tapped in as a kid. But then I got sick and everything became so mental because I needed to be able to like argue about why I was doing things, especially when I got a lot of like lashback from people that was like, why are you doing this alternative thing? I was like, oh, like, let me tell you why. Like I had
Yeah.
like 10 reasons why because I'd read all the science. So it was like a humbling experience in the beginning because it's not something you can understand with the mind. It's something you just feel so deeply. And it's, I think, at a certain point in a lot of people's path, they tap into this truth, and it's this deeper truth that just resonates, and there's no arguing with it. And you might not be able to like know it in your mind, but you know it on such a deeper level, and it lives in your heart. And I think with truth like that, it often doesn't even feel like you have to argue about it because it's like, I know this is truth. And when we discover that, it's, in my experience, a new journey starts, where we get to tap into
Yeah.
this deeper layers of experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what were you doing for your profession prior?
I wasn't working when I was sick. I was like I was too sick to do anything. I tried several different studies, like a lot of different times. Like I moved to London at a certain point to start a bachelor's degree. I think I started 2 different studies in Oslo that I had to stop. I was too sick to work. I was too sick to study. Yeah, so getting my health back was my full-time occupation, and I just used all my resources in that. And my doctors have told me that 9 out of 10 people would never gotten well from what I was sick from. It's just because I spent all my time and energy researching, and when I couldn't read, I was listening to audiobooks. I was always kind of like, because I knew that the most invested person in getting me better was me. Like no one was going to be as invested. Like I could go to the doctor every 2 months or like every once a month or whatever it was, but that's like 1 hour. What do we do between that time? And so I just knew that I felt like I need to be responsible for my own healing.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to become the CEO of our health.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay. I want to definitely get your opinion on like why so many people associate alignment with ease, flow, and effortlessness. But I think to segue into that, I mean, when you got well and then you started to step into this line of work, was there a feeling of alignment and flow, or was there a feeling of resistance for you?
So before I came to this meditation retreat, whenever I sat down to meditate, I have been meditating on and off since I was 14. Like I attended my first like private lessons in TM when I was around 14. So I've been on meditation retreats before, and I was like, but it just like at that time before I went to the retreat and I was kind of getting better, every time I sat down to meditate, I just felt like this like depth of depression. Like even sitting for 5 minutes felt like just excruciating before that. So I was like, that was kind of like why I knew that I needed to go to the retreat. I'm like, I need to go into this instead of run away from it. And when I stepped into that, it was challenging because I had been, oh, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm just gonna watch Netflix and like get into a better energy, or oh, I just need to like biohack my way out of this. I'm just gonna like have an amazing breakfast and a workout and some red light therapy, and everything's gonna be well, and like you can trigger your nervous system to like give you some feel good chemicals for a certain amount of time, but it's not gonna fill the depth that is like longing for something more within you. So I came home from that retreat and I was very, very disciplined. I decided on the retreat that I was going to meditate for 3 hours a day. In the beginning, I think I decided on like 2 weeks, but it ended up being several months because I was like, I actually have time for this. I do not have a job. I know by the science I've now learned and by the transformations that I've now felt in my body that this is transformational work. And that if I want to go in and change who I am on a neurological level, on a subconscious level, I can actually sit in that vibration for 3 hours a day, even though that might not be a direct reflection of how my outside life is looking right now. I know that's going to change my biology, my neurochemistry, and my subconscious mind in order to help me be in deeper alignment with where I actually want to be. So I went into that, and it wasn't easy, but again, it was like you feel this like pull of like truth. It's just like sometimes you know what you need to do. It's not easy, but it's just like it. And I think that's the thing with alignment as well. People think that it's going to be like this, like it's going to feel flowy and easy. No, like very much often not it. It's like it feels like truth. It feels like a knowing, like this is what needs to happen. And sometimes like your ego, like Cecilia in this body is like, please no, why do we have to do this? And I can tell that there's a higher intelligence like calling me forward to like, but no, this is the initiation. This is what we need to do. Because if we say that we want to expand and evolve and become more conscious creators and step deeper into our purpose and our mission, which I believe a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast are, then the way that we get initiated is the greatest initiator, in my opinion, is life. And if everything is always flowing and easy, then we're never getting better. So it's the best medicine. It's giving us the challenge and it's asking us, like, oh, you can be like, oh no, I cannot handle this. That might be how it feels in the moment. Maybe you feel rage, maybe you feel anger, maybe you feel sadness. But after that, hopefully comes a resourcefulness. And that is life asking you to entrusting you to find that within you and being like, I see something within you right now that you don't even see in yourself yet. And this is the invitation to find that within. And I think once I started to just use the mantra that everything is happening for me, and how can I use every situation as an initiation instead of like having it mean something about something or like analyze, is this karma? Is this something I've done? Just being like, it's here. So I'm here to face life, and I'm going to use this in the best possible way to build myself stronger rather than have it break me down. So I
Yeah.
believe that, yeah. So I believe that when we're in alignment, we can, sometimes it's a hard path because
Mhm.
we have this mission for a reason. Like you're being gifted. A lot of people feel like they have this mission or this vision that's just burning on their hearts in order to be created into reality. And in order for that to happen, we need to become spiritual warriors. Like we need to acquire certain inner resources in order to bring that out. And that is not
Yeah.
just coming through surfing the waves. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So would you say you would define alignment as truth.
For me, yes, it's the closest place I come when it's aligned. It's like, it's almost this string of reality that you feel like this. For me, it's like an energetic, almost like pull forward, and you feel it. It's not always comfortable, but it's like, that's the path where you need to go. And I think I've been so mental for such a big part of my life. And that's how society kind of indoctrinates us to be, right? So
Yeah.
we kind of just don't really take into account these other feelings that some of us are a lot more tapped into than others, that we know. Like, I know that the ceremony, something is telling me that the ceremony needs to be on like the 18th, but my mind is like, oh, but it's more logistic. It would be so much easier to just do it on the 16th. And then I have a very strong intuition that it needs to be on the 18th, but it doesn't always mean I've always done that. I'm like, nah, 16 makes sense. Let's do that, And then afterwards, I'm like, okay, maybe if I'm being trusted with this higher intelligence of healing, of bringing this to people, and that's working through me in the way that I cannot fully comprehend, that it's teaching me in a certain way, then there might also be a reason it needs to be that day that I don't even know in my body. And if I'm a governor of that intelligence, then I should probably listen to that. So I think we have these nudges all the time, and we don't always listen. And then the more hopefully we get, like, we hit goal, we feel like, oh, I listened, and now it's just like, wow, like the most amazing thing happened. The more we lean into trust it, and the more we lean into trust that it wants the best for us, even though it doesn't always make sense.
Yeah. Why do you think people associate alignment with effortlessness, ease, and flow? Like, where do you think that came from?
I think it's a lot of, there's just a lot of people in the spiritual space that are very like on cloud nine and like love and light, and everything is just, and that's beautiful. I love love and light when that's accessible. But if we suppress the parts of ourselves that are angry, that are sad, that are discouraged at times, then that's going to just create this like ticking bomb that at some point will explode or will implode. And you will like slowly eat you up from the inside. I believe that oftentimes that can also be like a lack of feeling the full spectrum of your emotions, and a little bit of what we usually call spiritual bypassing. So
Yeah.
like there's a time and place for that, and I love love and light when it's a time for that. But I think there's a lot of people who are very without kind of like, there's some people in this space that are not very grounded, and that live in this a little bit like other dimension all the time. And I believe that we can access those dimensions, but I know that I'm here to be human. This is what I chose for this lifetime. And that comes with certain human principles that we need to live by. And I think that if we just think that alignment needs to be in flow all the time, I think it comes a little bit from this, like, there's a lot of goddesses around there, just like living on beaches and preaching this. And I think that sounds beautiful and magical. I think in the same way manifestation is like been like misconstrued a little bit, in my opinion, it's the same thing with alignment. It's
Yeah.
it can be beautiful and it can be like that, but it's not always like that.
I love this. I haven't thought about it in this way, that alignment is really the closest thing to truth versus flow. Because even I got caught up in that, like it should feel flowy. And then therefore I was confused when I would hit friction. So that's why I love that we're talking about this right now, because I think there's so many people that are confused when shit starts to get hard, when you're in your purpose, or when you are, in a relationship that's in alignment. I mean, this was something I really tried to navigate. Like, there's so much friction here and here, but I also feel like these things are like so for me. So I love how you explain that. I think that's going to be very, very helpful for anyone listening, and definitely for myself. Yeah. And I really know what you mean about the goddess, like living in the other dimensions. I mean, I think I just did a podcast with Nico Cannon. You might know him from Colombia. And we talked a lot about, this concept that there's ungrounded spirituality that can happen. Anywho, default to the last podcast for that one. But okay, so would you say like, a personal story where alignment required grit, resilience, and facing deep discomfort for you would be what you shared earlier? Or do you have another personal story that really embodies this exact thing you're talking about?
I think it happens all the time for me. It's
Yeah,
like, 'cause the thing is
like
that
every
whenever
day. To be
every
clear.
day. It's like I have some flowy days too, where it feels like I'm on the top of the world. Everything is just flowing. It's the best when we have those days. But if we expect those to be all the time and we get disappointed when it's not, then I think we're in for some big disappointments. Like it's not, life just doesn't really work that way. So I, whenever we're because this also comes back to whenever we're like capping our nervous system ceiling, right? So we have like a set point in a nervous system for how much energy we can hold, how much we feel like we're worthy of, how much we feel like maybe how much money I feel like I can make, how good of a partner I feel like I can be matched with, how beautiful I think I can look, whatever it is. Like I have a certain cap in my mind of what I think I deserve when it comes to that. And as soon as I start hitting that ceiling, that's when these self-sabotaging things start coming in. You might start, some people start to procrastinate, some people start to overwork themselves, some people have this thing where they just push thing into the very distant future. Oh, taxes, I see that email and I'm just going to push it into the future as if it doesn't exist because it's uncomfortable, right? So this, especially when you're expanding fast, will hit you like probably often. And it definitely has for me, especially in the last, I'd say, 2.5 months has been like a huge initiation into my leadership. We're doing a lot of
Mhm.
things back in business. And I'm seeing this vision that I've had for a while just, oh shit, we have the operations now. We have everything for this to come to life. And even though I know that that's what I want, and I know that it's like in alignment for me, it's been challenging. It's like I'm sitting there and it's
Mhm.
been a huge day where I've just held all of this energy and held all of this vision and taken a lot of action. And then in the evening, I'm just like, I just need to tap and cry now. I just need to do a breath work. I just need to crack open because my body is like, this is too much. But since I know that it's not like this is not aligned. It's just, oh, you're capping your ceiling on what you thought was possible, and we're going beyond that. So you need to set a new baseline by now feeling what's going on in your body and allowing your body to express that. Often movement can be an amazing way to do that as well. So I know that it's not about not being aligned. It's just that my nervous system is screaming at me, like, this feels like too much. And then I can hold the intention and I can know that no, I know this is going to be amazing. I know this is what I'm here to do. And then meet myself in those moments and not pretend that it's not there, but alchemize it by going into
It's so good. It's so true. It's so good. It's like I mean, I'm experiencing it too, in all the ways. It's like it's really so important for people, yeah, to understand. I think the difference between also alignment and comfort, like how would you differentiate alignment versus seeking comfort,
I think the two words have nothing to do with each other. I think like we're like, oh, like this is like it's a line. It's like, no, sometimes when you're like running from that like nervous system, like maybe I don't want to feel that. Maybe I don't want to cry. Maybe I don't want to feel what's going on in my body. So I'm going for comfort. I'm going to watch a Netflix show. I'm going to have some chocolate. I'm going to online shopping. I'm going to these other things that will trigger these short dopamine hits. So I might feel better in the moment about myself, but I'm doing nothing about the root cause. And I'm not in any way like increasing my ceilings. I'm not actually using it to get to where I want to be. I'm just using it to take a little bit of money out of my credit card and like buying myself a cute dress or, watching a cute show on Netflix and feeling a little bit better in the moment, but not getting any closer to my goal. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, when you describe it as it being truth, that really clears up any confusion of that question of like, is this
Mhm.
comfort or is this alignment? Because, you explain when you're in your truth, it doesn't mean it's not going to be, uncomfortable. And it's par the course, but comfort is more, as you're saying, something that's like the quick dopamine hit where you can sort of like, regulate in your
Yeah.
ways of regulating versus like
Yeah.
being in something that's challenging and true.
Yeah. No, this is not to shame anyone who's doing these things. Like I've done these things too because before I was aware. But when we're aware, we get to do something different. And we're probably going to catch ourselves doing that again at a certain level because we're hitting our ceiling. And then unconsciously, we're like, do I really want that dress? Or am I just now seeking something outside of me because I feel this hole within me and I feel like, right now. So just recognizing and then changing the habit again and again and again. It's like we're like children when it comes to this. It's like so indoctrinated into our survival mechanisms. So these are patterns that
Yeah.
will come in and catch us. And different people have, some people are more like, I'm going to just like work till I die. Like that's the pattern they come back to again and again and again. They're like hustle to the core, and other people are like, they're just avoiding everything. So we will have a lot of people have like core patterns that they see themselves coming back to. And even people that are doing this work for a living, they come back to those patterns and you just catch yourself faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And how can people discern if the path is aligned even when it feels hard and messy?
I think it's a practice. It's like, it's like learning to ride a bicycle. It's like in the beginning, it's like, how do I do this? And once you kind of know. And how do you do it? It's like, how do I do it? That's a good question. I just at a certain point I learned and then it just clicked like this and I could ride the bicycle. So I think like it's something that we cultivate, like everything else over time. We cultivate a connection to our intuition and to this deeper truth. And that actually starts with being present to ourselves and our opinions and our inner voice and allowing ourselves to have an opinion and all the other opinions that are floating around there. Doesn't mean we have to share it with everyone, but we need to be honest with ourselves about what we actually feel and think and mean. And I think for a lot of people, taking some time, to have a meditation practice or to have a practice just even of presence of like as you're walking down from work, you're not listening to a podcast or you're not swiping on your phone, you're just there in the moment, because when that's the times when the brain actually gets the chance to consolidate ideas and start building new neural networks and connecting things. Like everyone has felt when they're doing a workout and suddenly that thing they've been like working on for 5 hours, it's just like, why can I not figure this out? It's suddenly like ding, and you just like get it. So I think like by being present, a lot of those things will start to click. And it's something that we cultivate over time, like everything else. The more we kind of trust and lean in, because it's a more subtle cue than fear. Because fear is something that will scream at us very often. It's like, get out of that relationship, sell that stock, like quit your job. And it will be like, ask you to do it like this. Intuition is very rarely like that. It's a nudge. So if we are in a nervous system state where we are activated, where we're dysregulated, we're going to start seeing the world through a lens of fear. We're going to start scanning our environments for threats, for how everything is going to go wrong. We're going to start probably spiraling and just seeing the future in the most kind of worst way could ever go. Whereas if we're in a regulated state, we're looking for opportunities. So sometimes if it's just like feels like you have it to do it like now, right now, and everything is going to go to shit if you're not doing it, it's likely not your intuition. You're likely just in this dysregulated nervous system state where you're very stressed and you're looking for a way out of this stress, because that's just the evolutionary response. Whereas when we can be in a place where we're present with ourselves, we can make a decision with a lot more discernment. And not every decision will come to you like this. Some of these will be nudges that you might feel into for months before you're making a decision. And I think we're also like, just because of this like manifestation trend, it's like, oh, it's just gonna
Mhm.
like come down to stardust as soon as you think about it and it's there. It's like, no, it's not always like that. Sometimes a thought
Yeah.
needs time to cultivate within you. So sometimes it might be, you might get a very clear idea like, oh, this is the program I'm launching now, or this is the place that I'm moving now. And those hits are amazing, but it's not always going to be like that. Sometimes it's like a deeper, almost like you're marinating in this idea for a while before it fully comes online.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up the nervous system, and I was going to ask you about that because you talk about it a lot, and you know what role the nervous system plays in holding this bigger vision and alignment within us. So, what role do you feel the nervous system plays in helping us hold bigger alignment, especially when it challenges us?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, like when we're going through periods of up leveling, that's going to be stretched. So the nervous system, for the people that don't know, it's a communication system that's always communicating between our brain and our body, and it's happening through these electrical impulses. So it's communicating even faster than hormones. It's super, super fast, like milliseconds. If I would have dropped this now from the ground, I would have likely had a reflex to like go catch it, right? And it wasn't a conscious thought. It was something that I would just do. And that's my nervous system. So we have these imprints that will like almost do it before we can even consciously catch it. Like it might be just a habit for you to just go straight into hustle mode or go straight into just like, oh, I'm not going to think about this, because that's what happens when we're, we have 4 different main states in the nervous system when we're getting dysregulated, which is a sympathetic response. This is a more like activation response. So this can be, it's a stress response. So it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So fight is basically like, we don't go on and like fight bears anymore. But this is like the hustler. This is the person that is just like nonstop go, 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 and don't take a break until the body tells you that you have to. Maybe it's just like all guns blazing. And again, that is an amazing opportunity when you can balance it. But when it's coming from this state of fear and you're just overactivated for a very long time, you're likely just going to burn yourself out, and you're not seeing reality in the most kind of like, you're not planning for the long lines. You're not able to really discern and take in the most important things for where you want to go. So you're just going to be like all guns blazing. And maybe that was the right way, but you're all guns blazing this way because you're just going. So this is something that's very normal for people that are more like type A. And then we have, yeah, I definitely relate to that one a lot. I've done that a lot in my life. And then we have flight, which, ancestrally, evolutionarily would be like running away from a bear. But we don't really see bears that much anymore. So this would be more like, I'm just gonna just push this email into the future. Like, I know I need to have this uncomfortable conversation. I know I need to fire this board member. I know I need to sell this company, but it's going to be uncomfortable. Someone is not going to like it. I don't like that feeling within my body. So I'm just going to postpone that for another 2 months, and we just pretend that it doesn't really exist. So that is obviously also not a very constructive response. Like, we can see it, and I think this is I see a lot of people doing this with money. A lot of people just like disassociating from money because it's like very uncomfortable. A lot of people haven't grown up knowing how to manage money, haven't grown up like with a relationship with money. So it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna not check my bank account, and just like, it's always money there, I think, instead of being like in a relationship with it and actually nurturing that relationship like we do with other relationships. So that is the way that people might be like in a flight pattern from that. And then we have fawn, which is when people would just like lay down and pretend to be dead. Like, it's not even happening. Like, you're just like, that's complete shutdown. It's not like I'm dealing with this in 2 months. It's just like, oh, no, I'm just walking the other direction. This is not even existing for me. You're just completely disassociating. So we have all of these different patterns that then start showing up for us when we feel like we're getting challenged and when we're getting into this stress mode. So and this will kind of just usually take over without us even realizing it. And a lot of people will say, that's just who I am, because that's a pattern that's been there forever. Like, they probably learned it from their parents, because a lot of these things are also stemming for a lot of people from their were children. So there will be these responses that we kind of get ourselves into. And when we can go into this state of regulation instead, we can actually start leading from alignment, from truth, from presence, where we tap into our resources in a completely different way, and we can make conscious decisions of things we actually want to make happen. And that's when we start also turning on, we have something in the mind called the reticular activating system that is constantly filtering our reality, because we're taking out in more than 50 million bits of information every second, 11 million bits of information every second, and about 40 to 50 of these bits are what we're actually consciously perceiving. And what you're consciously perceiving depends on what your intention is. Like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for opportunities? Do you believe that I am a resourceful person? I'm a person who's going to make this happen. You're going to see evidence in your reality for that. If I believe that I'm such a loser and I don't have the resources to do this and this is never going to happen, I don't even believe it myself, then I'm going to see evidence of that in my reality. So that is also like how, and when we're in a dysregulated nervous system response, that we will start to flip on a different lens. It's like we change from these like vision glasses where we see opportunity, and then suddenly we flip it to like, oh, everything's a disaster. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I think all this is so helpful to call out again when we do step into what we believe is our truth or our purpose, not to be surprised if your nervous system does get dysregulated and you've done a lot of work on it, or if you hit friction or it feels so hard, because again, there's this narrative out there that it's flowy and it's going to feel like a breath of fresh air. And I mean, having again this awareness that this could and will come can definitely prepare people for the eventual journey of stepping into that. And I think they'll be definitely better off than I was in the beginning without that information, really like understanding it on a deep level. So I think
100%.
explaining about the nervous system is so important. I've seen you talk a lot about like your success depends on the regulation of your nervous system.
Absolutely. Because again, that's what you filter your reality through. So if you don't believe in it, like I have people with amazing strategies in their business and then they don't, like, as long as they don't believe they're worthy of that, as long as they're not going to take action on it, they're going to start self-sabotaging without even knowing it. They're going to say no to the person that they should have hired. They're going to, they're going to do all these small things that seemingly doesn't matter, but that really does. So it all adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember people talking about how it will be hard and challenging, but I don't quite remember the deep like analysis of, it's going to challenge you on a level you have never experienced. Keep going anyway, like the spirituality behind stepping into purpose. And so I think, like I said, I think this is just so timely because I do think there are more people who are, as we know, waking up to their own truth, their own blueprint, their own codes, if you will.
Yeah.
And depending who's listening, if that resonates, but that's happening more and more. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah.
And I think the more, no, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. The more, like, the reason we also do this work is that when we sit with this uncomfortableness, when we feel it in our bodies, on the other side of that comes flow. Because this is something that has been unconsciously there keeping us from getting where we want to be for such a long amount of time that we might not have realized that is making us self-sabotage. So we're going through the uncomfortableness to reach a new level of flow, because on the other side of that healing, on the other side of feeling that emotion, is a freer version of you that is more connected to their truth, more connected to their depth and their feelings and their intuition, because it's not clouded by all of these things that is not really in alignment with who we want to be. So it's like we need to kind of dive deep. It's the same thing when we talk about enlightenment. Like if you want to go really high and if you want to go to like the light, then you need to go down to the roots, because that is what's going to make you be able to go even higher. And it's the same thing when it comes to this work. If you can sit with your uncomfortableness, on the other side of that comes a presence and a richness and an ability to be so present in life at a level that I'm just so grateful for, that I really get to experience, because I didn't know this existed before, and it's a blessing.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it is. What would you say to someone who's doubting themselves because their path doesn't feel easy and they're continuing to doubt if they should stay on it?
I think doubt is also a teacher. It's like, it's asking you, how bad do you really want this? Like, how bad do you really want this? Because everyone is going to be challenged. And the truth is that we love the hero story, but not everyone is going to like stay on that path. Not everyone is going to keep doing it because it is hard. Like 90% of businesses fail that people start as entrepreneurs. Like, so like if you want to be in the 10%, then you got to get comfortable with some resistance. Like it's, if so it's just acknowledging that everything can be used as a teacher, even fear. Like, okay, what is underneath that? What am I afraid is going to happen? And I love to play out the scenario. What is the worst thing that could happen? Because very often it's not as bad as we think. It's like, okay, this goes to hell and I still have a family that loves me. I still have some savings. I still have an education. I can go get a job and everything is kind of fine. And at least I tried, and I won't be sitting when I'm 80 years old being like, why did I not do that? Right? So I think like just realizing that the faster we can step through fear, because fear is just, again, a sign that I've reached my limit. It's not a sign to not do it. It's just like, ah, okay, I know this game by now. Fear. That means, there's a new level that I'm about to step into. That's actually exciting. So for the people that have done this for a while, they start to recognize fear and they're like, I see you there, opponent. I know how to slay you with action. Like, I see you, I
Mhm.
feel you doing your practices for the nervous system. I love tapping, I love breath work to regulate, because it's probably still going to feel not so comfortable, and still taking action.
Yeah.
Because you know that it's not a sign to stop, it's just a sign that I'm leveling up right now.
That discernment is so important. There's been so many times that I think a lot of us in this work have wanted to stop because it just feels
Mm-hmm.
like so much and too much, and you're being pushed to your edges, and you're just like, I'll speak for myself. It's like, what was I thinking, doing this and leaving that, and it's people like yourself being around that and being around community that has gone through that is really what can get you through that moment and help you to discern, is this really not working,
Yeah.
or is this really just some tension stretching you and it is aligned? And, that is very important to distinguish.
100%. And sometimes the most aligned thing can be to give in. It's not like we're fighting to the end of the day for whatever it is. Like, life is an ever evolving journey. So it could be like you probably felt that when you first entered more of your corporate job, it felt aligned, in the moment, based on who you were in that moment and
Exactly.
the resources that you had. And at some point it didn't anymore. And that's okay too. Life is not a straight path. And if we expect it to be, we're gonna be very surprised.
I think that part you just brought up about how things are ever flowing and evolving and changing is so important, because that version of me was very aligned in that
Yeah.
work, and then we changed. And I have a friend recently who stepped into her purpose, and she was coaching, and she had left corporate, and she did that for years. And at some point, the aligned action for her was actually to go back and get a job. She was in
Yeah.
a lot of debt, and it was very uncomfortable, and she didn't feel like, it made sense to she didn't feel like it was any longer aligned to keep doing what she was doing. So she went back to corporate, and a year later she's working in corporate and she's coaching. And
Amazing.
this was her journey, and she's so happy now. And we talked a lot about this, of like, at what point did she realize, it was time to go back to a job, but she found a job in conscious companies and doing the thing.
Amazing.
And I think that's also okay. And because she changes and we change, it just made sense.
It's beautiful. And I think
Yeah.
we have this obsession right now with purpose. Everyone thinks they need to find their purpose,
Yes.
especially in the conscious community. And that's
Oh,
also something that's going to be evolving. It's not an ever, I like to, when we're talking about purpose with my clients, I'm like, can we just, what are your values? That is going to be an inner compass, like finding your 3 core values. That's going to be guiding you all along the way. But you are probably going to feel like, oh, maybe I want to be a coach for a little while. And then I'm stepping into, as I'm leaning more into my business, I see a lot of people leaning more into business coaching after a while. And then you're building up a company and you're becoming more the CEO. It's going to be an ever evolving process. So if we think that, in order to start, we need to figure out our purpose, then we're never going to begin, because we're likely not going to. It's like trying to get, you're in an earthquake and you're trying to get a good selfie. It's going to be really hard to get a good shot. It's just it's ever evolving, and it's a dance. We're always co-creating with life. So listening to that and being like, yes, this is the vision right now, and I'm open to that evolving, and I understand that it likely will. And then just taking the step when we feel this excitement and this inner knowing that there's something that wants to be explored, instead of feeling like we need to know the full entire path, because the path is never going to be like you thought it would be, and hopefully a lot more fun.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. What are your current offerings for people to work with you? What is alive for you right now?
We're actually in the middle of completely restructuring the offering suite right now. So we have a lot of things coming out very soon. I don't have like an exact date. I'm hoping sometime July. We have a membership for like meditation, sound healings, breath work, hypnosis. This is all the practices that what we've been talking about is going to help you regulate. Like get clear in your vision, get your mind on board with that vision so you don't start self-sabotaging. And then the practices for your nervous system to also like when you're feeling that like, oh, I'm in a stretch. And even before you feel like you're in a stretch, you can fill so your cup is not half empty when that thing starts coming, but it's actually full. So you feel like you have more inner resources to handle whatever it is that's not flowing perfectly. And then I'm launching a course. It's called the Unshakable Shift. And it's for leaders, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, women that are like, I have a mission. And they probably know a lot about strategy. They know a lot about what they do. And then at some point they may have realized that maybe I'm actually the bottleneck in my business, because there are certain patterns and things that I'm just not able to execute on. And we talk about the nervous system, we talk about the subconscious mind, and a lot of integration work around this. And I also teach the mysticism around how to become a magnet for what we really desire. Because after we've done the things that we talked about today, that's when we can step into a place where we get to become, where we get to weave with a field of consciousness in a very different way. And we get to create sometimes what people talk about as manifesting like this, because we understand the field in a different way. But if we haven't done the fundamental work before, we're going to manifest from a place of not feeling worthy, of not feeling like we can get there. And we're probably not going to have the nervous system capacity to even handle it, because I've had that happen. I learned that technology of how to manifest fast. And I had so many things come into my life so quickly, and I had no ability to handle it. I had no ability to hold it. So I was like, I'm just going to drop this because
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity right now. My body was just screaming at me. So doing
Wow.
that like in a way where we're building up towards that, because there's beautiful
Yeah.
technology here as well that we can create with to make things happen even faster than what normal people would consider attainable or normal.
Yeah. And you have an incredible voice, and your, sound healing and all of that is just like such a beautiful offering for the world. So I'm excited for
Thank
people
you.
to check out all of your work. Yeah. It's amazing, and your story is amazing. And yeah, I'm so glad we had this conversation, and we are about to have another conversation on Cecilia's podcast. So we're gonna have an action-packed day of us chatting about this. But yeah, I
Yay.
really wanted this, we're going to go deep on that podcast, probably about like, the story behind concierge and all of that. And with this, I really wanted like some tactical information. And I think we really covered that. So, yeah, I'm excited for people to get to know you and to hear this conversation and to understand these concepts. I think it will really be extremely helpful. Where can the people find you?
Instagram is the best place to connect. We can probably link it in the show notes, I'm guessing, Cecilia.Stabell. I have a website, ceciliastabell.com, and I also have a podcast, which we're about to record for with you. So please drop in there and listen to Lana. So that's called Divinely Driven.
Amazing. And as always, for all things spirituality, health, and wellness, figuring out what is your next step in all of those worlds, reach out to @YourConsciousConcierge on Instagram, www.yourconsciousconcierge.com, and Conscious Concierge on TikTok, newly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.